listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
Welcome into the GM Shuffle. It is championship weekend in the NFL, the AFC Championship and the NFC Championship. We have you covered for that. We also have you covered for coaching search news and notes. Jeff Schwartz, 8 years in the NFL. Marty Hurney, 30 years in NFL front offices. Before we get to the games, we'll give you our full breakdown of the games. We'll give you some props and some best bets and all of that. It is coaching search time now. And very rare, Marty, do we get to hear from an owner in the NFL. Some owners speak more than others. Jerry Jones very much speaks. Other owners never speak. And when coaches get fired, sometimes we get the opportunity to talk to or hear from, I should say, an NFL owner. We got that in Buffalo yesterday. I want to start with what I felt was messy in Buffalo. You might feel differently. Let's talk this out here. Terry Pegula, the Bills owner, spoke about the firing of Sean McDermott. And I kind of want to go, Marty, in order of things that I heard and talked to you about. The first one was his decision to fire Sean McDermott, essentially because they lost the game and the locker room was sad afterwards. That was the short version of what he said. We talked about that game and how I felt it broke Buffalo, but not enough to maybe fire the coach immediately. What was your take on that decision maybe being so abrupt on that one moment in that game?
Well, it wasn't. And excuse me for if I get a little heated during this discussion,
Please.
Jeff, because, I go back to 2007. John Beeson reported 8 days late to training camp. We signed him to his rookie contract. And I had a reporter who covered the team on a daily basis saying, okay, what's your job? What do you do after this? The media does not totally understand the general manager's job. They don't understand the owner's job. This is a coach-centric league. Terry Pegula gets up there. And listen, when you have these press conferences, these are the hardest things you have to do in this business. Terry Pegula has known Sean McDermott for 9 years. Brandon Beane's known him for 14, 15 years. Listen, this is a hard thing. They didn't want to do this. And if anybody thinks that Terry Pegula walked into that locker room saying, oh, okay, let's go, and then saw the locker room and said, oh, we're firing Sean McDermott, they have no clue how this business works. This is something, obviously, that has been on his mind and talked about. I read something a couple months ago. He still mentioned the 13 seconds game at Kansas City. I think that you're thinking of this and thinking this. Obviously, if they beat Denver, if they go to the Super Bowl, you're not firing them. But the whole premise about firing Sean McDermott after 9 years, Sean McDermott is a very good football coach. He's going to get a job whenever he wants to, whether it's this year, whether he sits out. He's a good football coach. But after 9 years and you haven't gotten the Super Bowl, there needs to be something that changes. You walk into that locker room and what you think is, okay, look at these guys. They're broken. If we just stay the same, should we expect different results? Do we have to do something differently? I give Terry Pegula, and I think Terry Pegula, if he's not the best owner in the league, he's definitely top 3, top 5. I know him. I've had dinner with him. He is a very good owner, and he cares about everybody in his organization. But to say that went in, I saw the faces, it was still, the emotion was still there from that loss for everybody in the organization. But anybody who thinks Terry Pegula walked in and made that decision right there, they don't know how this works. I mean, obviously, if they won the game, he wasn't going to fire him. But if they didn't get to a certain point, if they couldn't get over the hump, that was the decision afterwards. So that anybody that thinks he walked in that locker room and made that decision right then, spur of the moment, does not understand how things work.
Do you think if they win that game, Sean McDermott keeps his job beyond the next game, essentially beyond Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, I think if they win that game, it's the third time he makes the championship game, right? So I think it's a different.
Win that game?
I think it's a different discussion, and that's the thing. We all love. It's real easy to sit back here and talk about ifs and whats. I don't know. I think the chances of him staying, if he would have beat Denver, were better. But
yeah,
what the Bills are telling you is that their goal is to win a Super Bowl. okay? It's not to make the playoffs every year. It's to win a Super Bowl. And if I'm a fan, if I'm somebody in the media, that's what everything – it doesn't matter. Nothing else matters except for winning the Super Bowl. I've been in 2, lost them both. I couldn't tell you where the loser rings are. They're in some drawer in the bottom of my house. They mean nothing because we lost it. The only thing that matters in this league is winning the Super Bowl. And you have to ask the question, can we win a Super Bowl with the current head coach? And obviously they felt no, even though he is a terrific football coach. Sometimes you just need to bring in a different voice. I mean, you look at it here, Jeff, we talked about it before, but there are only 5 coaches in this league who were hired before 2021. And it's Andy Reid, Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, Matt LaFleur, and Zach Taylor with the Bengals. I just think that this is a matter of timing. There's no bad guys in this. And we can talk. I heard a guy this morning called Brandon Beane classless, and I almost wanted to jump through the TV set, but I realized, you know what? You could put Brandon Beane in a lineup of 10 people, and this guy couldn't pick him out. He's never met him before. He couldn't have because he can never say those things. As a general manager, it's the most unselfish position in the organization because you have to worry. Your only job is to win a Super Bowl. It's to get the team to win consistently and win a Super Bowl. And so you're trying to give everybody what they need. And on personnel, we've talked about it. There's a final decision maker, but it's a collaborative effort. The coaches, the personnel people meet 2 weeks before the draft. If you bring in a player that a coach doesn't like, it's all uphill. So you try to get that middle ground, but the general manager's job is to keep everybody working in the same direction and trying to win competitively and win the Super Bowl. It's the most unselfish position in the National Football League. It's the hardest job in the National Football League. I would say public relations director might be the second these days, but it's the hardest job in the National Football League. People do not understand what goes in it. And when somebody makes criticisms of people that are very good, you want to know how good Brandon Beane is? Go ask Howie Roseman and John Schneider. I mean, they're 2 of the best in the league. They'll tell you. So all this stuff that's going to come up now and people, being mean, calling names, I don't get it.
So this was not said at the press conference, but there was reports that the relationship soured when they had a meeting, 6 weeks ago between McDermott, Beane, and the ownership group. And McDermott said the roster is not good enough to win a Super Bowl, Marty. Have you been in those meetings before when a coach says things like that? And obviously the owner sided with the general manager in that dispute.
Yeah, I mean, you know how close John Fox and I were, and it's very similar. I mean, we were together 9 years. I was with John for a year in San Diego, and then in his I think after the final game of the 2010 season, and he knew he was getting fired, and he was asked a question. He said, well, ask the personnel department. And listen, when you get fired, it's hard. I've been fired twice. It's hard. You have to get through those emotions. But John Fox and I are good friends now, and we were coming into it. And that relationship is it's so close. And again, I keep using the analogy, but it really is like a marriage. And you have disagreements, you have to work them out, but there's a closeness there that develops that makes a day like yesterday extremely hard for Brandon Beane and Terry Pagula. But they are making the decision that they think is best for the Bills moving forward. What's the easy thing for them to do, Jeff? If they do nothing and they just stay pat, they got Josh Allen, we're going after it again. They don't, none of this is being said or going on. But the hard thing to do is try to make the hard decisions, the right decisions. The right decisions are most of the time the hardest decisions. They made it with saying, listen, Josh Allen has been in the league for 7 years. He's coming into his prime. He's got maybe 7, 8 years left. We want to win a Super Bowl. And again, I can't give Sean McDermott any more credit than, he is a tremendous coach. He and Brandon Beane brought Buffalo into a place where you couldn't get players to come in for free agent visits. You couldn't get coaches to come in for interviews. Now it's one of the premier places to be in this league. And they did that. They turned this around. And Sean McDermott deserves a ton of credit for that, along with Brandon Beane. But it's just time. 9 years. 9 years is a long time for the same voice to be in front of that room, giving the same message. They had to do something to try to get over the hump.
So, Bills owner Terry Pegula also brought up, Keon Coleman was brought up. I think a reporter actually asked a question about Keon Coleman, and the response was essentially that the ownership, the coaching staff picked Keon Coleman over the front office. And obviously that's a discussion that we have here often about who's in charge of what, Marty. Now, obviously with Brandon Beane getting a promotion, that's actually head of everything, right? It's ownership and Brandon Beane. It does feel like if you want to interpret that as saying Brandon Beane didn't have full control of the roster, now he does, you can determine it that way. How do you view that discussion around Keon Coleman?
First of all, Brandon Beane came out and said, I'm responsible. It's my decisions. I'm the one, I take the blame. We've talked about this, Jeff. It's a collaborative process as a GM, okay? If you have 3 wide receivers, you take them back to head coaches. If they don't like 2 of them, then there's no sense bringing either one of those 2 in. You bring the third one in. Brandon Beane's not going to put Keon Coleman on the coaches, and we don't know about Keon Coleman yet. And that's the one part of the press conference I did not like when Terry brought up a player's name, but he was just trying to defend Brandon. Brandon doesn't need any defense, okay? He has done a terrific job. I just think that there's always going to be misses. Hey, bring up Jimmy Clausen, bring up there's always going to be guys you miss on. The fact that they can bring up one name after 8 years, that's pretty good. They've done a hell of a job personnel-wise.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's fair to say there were some holes in the roster this year. They have to be addressed moving forward with a new coach. We'll talk in just a second here about Josh Allen, the future of him. But this is a big offseason, right? To hire the right head coach, but also rebuild that roster. Your window's always open with Josh Allen. As long as he's there and the way he's playing, you're going to have that window open. Let's talk about Josh Allen's role in the next head coach. Where do they go from here? And we'll talk about the rest of the coaching hires so far in the National Football League here on the Jim Show, presented by Jeffrey's Network.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
All right, we're back on the GM Shuffle. One more Bills-related topic, and then we'll get into the rest of the coaching hires. 4 so far, as more jobs continue to be filled. There's a lot of interviews to go through. And I want to talk about some of these coordinator hires that I find fairly interesting here. So, Bills owner Terry Pegula spoke yesterday, and he mentioned that Josh Allen will be involved in the discussion over a new head coach. And Marty, my take has always been this on players involved in these decisions. Absolutely not. So a player should not be involved in head coaching search decisions, should not be involved in roster construction. Now, I do believe it's prudent to involve Josh Allen in the discussion of what you're doing. Hey, we're interviewing these 4 coaches. What do you think about the coaches? And let him give his opinion on the coach. You shouldn't let him interview the coaches. You shouldn't let him decide who the coach is going to be. But I think it's very important to let him have a say, at least emotionally, tell you how he feels. I seen Patrick Mahomes be involved in some draft discussion, right? Like, hey, Pat, if you want to watch the wide receivers, go ahead and watch them. Let us know what you think. We're not going to do what you want to do, but maybe actually Pat's number one choice, our number one choice is the same thing, and the player feels like he's involved. He feels better about being in the organization, right? So I get saying those things, Marty, but practically speaking, right, there's no way Josh Allen's actually part of this discussion.
He's not making the decision for sure. You're right, Jeff. Is he in another room watching, or does he watch the tape of the interviews? And I think what I would do as far as having him involved, I would say, listen, what traits are you looking for, and what traits does this guy have? What traits does that guy have? He doesn't even have to know the names. It's just, what traits are you looking for, and what traits do these guys have, do you think, that match them? But this has got to be a decision made by ownership and the general manager. Obviously, you have your key personnel people on it. I think the president of the organization is going to be involved, but it really comes down to Brandon Beane making the decision. There's nothing wrong with getting opinions. You just can't get too many opinions. There's so many voices in this and so many people that want the jobs that I just think that you've got to have a really tight-knit group, people you trust. And Josh isn't going to be involved in the decision making at all, but I do think that having him listen and feel like he's involved a little bit, he's your organization right now. We talked yesterday. That's one of the things they have to do is they have to get beyond just being Josh Allen. They have to get other areas and other difference making areas, and I think that's their next step. And do they have personnel issues? Of course they do. Jeff, everybody's got personnel issues. But look at their offensive line. Their offensive line's been very good. Their tight ends are good. Their running backs good. Just on offense. Do they need wide receivers? Yes. But there are a lot of teams that are playing well without like big name wide receivers. But I just think that you know what? High expectations. It's been 9 years with Sean as head coach. He's done an amazing job. He's helped make the Buffalo Bills relevant. It's just time to see if another voice will help get you over the hump.
So very quickly, before we move on from Buffalo, any guesses on who they might hire?
Don't know. I've read the interview list with, Joe Brady was on it. Louis Anarumo was on it. Brian Dable, who was there as the offense coordinator before he left to be the head coach of the Giants, is on it. I am sure I said last time, every general manager has a list every year, no matter what, no matter who the coach is. So they have done some work already. I'm sure it's going to be a pretty narrow list. I wouldn't be surprised. I'd be really surprised if you saw them interview like 10, 20 people like teams are talking about. I think he'll interview 4 or 5 people, and I think he's got a pretty good idea of the traits he's looking for. And again, as we'll talk about with all these hires, it's really not just the head coach. The coordinator's huge, especially if you hire a defensive head coach. You better have a really good offensive coordinator to coach the quarterback. The only problem with that, with what they ran into with Brian Dable, is if the offensive coordinator is that good, you're going to lose him in a couple of years, and now you're recycling the coordinators with Josh Allen.
Yeah, that's always the problem with the defensive coach, right? Is the coordinators end up cycling out every couple of years. You have to keep finding these guys, but you shouldn't turn down a good coach on defense or a good defensive minded coach because of that. That's just the nature of the sport. If you like what you're hearing here in the GM Shuffle, even more VSiN Pro, betting, splits, power, and sharp analysis, all for $9.99 your first month. Go to vsin.com/subscribe. Check out all subscription options. All right, Marty, we have 4 coaching hires so far. John Harbaugh with the New York Giants. Official press conference was the other day. It seems like a lot of the holdup on the official announcement of the hiring was the structuring of the front office, where Harbaugh wanted to move it a little into 2026, more analytics, more diversity of people in the front office, I would imagine. Maybe less reliant on the family part of the Giants. And there's also news today that Ronnie Barnes, who's been their athletic trainer since 1980.
Yeah, I mean, that happens, Jeff, when you have a coach that has been in this league as a head coach for 18 years. He comes in, and obviously he wants to bring a lot of the people that he is familiar with in certain areas. Now, whether he has any luck at getting a lot of those guys out, whether it's Baltimore or other places, the teams don't necessarily have to give permission to let those guys interview. But the big question here, I think, is how Joe Schoen, the general manager, and John Harbaugh are going to work together. I've been with Joe. I know Joe. I think he can work together. That's what he does. He is as unselfish as anybody. Again, just like Brandon, just like any general manager, the goal is to win the Super Bowl. Okay, so he can work with John Harbaugh. It's going to be interesting to see how those two get together and if they're on the same page. But there's a lot of work to be done in New York.
There is work to be done there, and obviously they got to get to doing that as soon as possible. The roster is not bad, Marty. It's a decent roster, so we'll see obviously what they do in who they hire. It seems like Todd Monken is the preferred OC. Obviously, He's interviewing for some head coaching jobs, so we'll have to keep an eye on who Harbaugh hires there. The Falcons have hired Kevin Stefanski as their coach. He also brought along, I believe, Tommy Rees, his offensive coordinator in Cleveland, to Atlanta. Look, I see a lot of people not doubting the hire, Marty, but sort of looking at his end in Cleveland. And I want to remind people, he took Baker Mayfield to the playoffs before Mayfield was any good. He is a good coach, guys. And last year's situation in Cleveland was really, really awful, and no one could succeed. It was impossible, the quarterback situation, for that to work. The team had gotten older at a lot of positions, and it really showed on the field. And there was just nothing for him to do. I mean, he tried his best, but you have two quarterbacks that we all agree are just sort of, Gabriel's fine, Sanders is fine, but there's no upside a lot there. And so I think now when you add in the young players on offense for the Falcons, they have a good offensive line, by the way. They will actually very rarely they fired a good offensive line coach in Ledford and then hired Bill Callahan. Like, that's a rare 1-for-1 swap, essentially. So they kept the DC there. They have young pass rushers. I think it's a really good hire. I think it really is.
I do too. He was, when we were looking for a head coach in Carolina, 17, I believe it was, the years run together, but he was on the short list. I think he's an excellent coach. He was kind of in a difficult situation. This is my question for you on Atlanta, Jeff. Okay. Yeah. So we have Kevin Stefanski that got fired from an organization that we kind of felt when we were talking about the Joe Flacco type thing, where we kind of felt like he didn't have a lot of say, and maybe there were some things done. Joe Flacco obviously was one of them. He didn't want to trade him. So now he gets hired by the Atlanta Falcons after they named Matt Ryan president of football. And when they announced Matt Ryan president of football, they went through the whole hiring kind of cycle and brought in minorities. They named them president of football. They said he was the final say in football. Then you go to the head coaching search, and I think that Kevin Stefanski has to have a lot of faith in Matt Ryan for him to take that job. But there still is no general manager. They said they were going to hire the two simultaneously, but they have not. Now, I've said before, they have Kyle Smith as assistant general manager there, who is a terrific evaluator. I think he's very talented. But I just wonder, I haven't heard a lot, unless I've missed it. I haven't heard a lot on the general manager position, and I can't believe that Kevin Stefanski would take a job that he's going to report directly to the general manager and he doesn't know who he is.
Yeah, they've announced a couple interviews, but to your point, you mentioned this on Monday's show, right? Just that Matt Ryan feels like the guy in complete charge, which feels like a lot to put on his plate immediately in the first time of this job. But we've seen John Lynch did it, right? I mean, we've seen other guys or players be able to come in that job and do it well. So it does feel like it's Matt Ryan's final say. They're going to hire, some personnel guys, some cap guys sort of around Matt Ryan to help him out a little bit there. Marty, moving along to the Dolphins here. Jeff Hafley was hired, the Packers defense coordinator, Dolphins head coach. He's talking right now at his introductory press conference. What fascinates me about this hire, Marty, is not really Hafley the Dolphins. I don't know how he's going to be as a coach. We have no idea. First-time head coach in the NFL. However, he spent 4 years at Boston College. He was 4 games under 500, a tough job to have, right? He made a bowl game 3 of the 4 years. He then leaves the head coach of a college team, right, a Power 4 team, but near the bottom of his conference, goes to the Packers to be a DC for 2 years, and comes out being the Dolphins head coach. So 3 years after leaving Boston College, he's the head coach of an NFL team. This does strike me as a path other college coaches might endeavor to. Do you think this sparks other college coaches in his spot, same spot he's in, to go be a coordinator at the NFL level and be an NFL head coach within a couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Jeff, ever since NIL came in, I think you talk to any college coach, and sure, they would love to move to a coordinator job in the NFL. I like this hire for one reason, and it's kind of what we talked about, and it's the old school. The Dolphins hired John Luke Sullivan as their general manager, son of probably the best wide receiver coach I've been around. I remember John Luke running around when he was younger, when he was a kid, but they hired John Luke Sullivan. So what does he do? He goes to Hafley, who he was with at Green Bay for 2 years. He knows him. He knows he can work together with him. I like the hire because of that. Jeff Hafley was going to get a job. He's the top defense coordinator, and he's been in the head coach seat.
All right, we have one more coaching hire to talk about in Tennessee. We'll talk about the rumors for the rest of the jobs. Then we'll preview the games. We've got 2 games this weekend. GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings Network.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
Welcome back to the GM Shuffle. The GM Shuffle is presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. We'll get to all the DraftKings odds on the 2 championship games this weekend in just a few minutes. We want to clean up some of the coaching search news here. Robert Saleh was hired, Marty, as the Tennessee Titans head coach. Look, I think his grade in New York was incomplete. He was the coach of a franchise in ruin and a coach where you're just not going to win very much in New York. No one wins in New York. So I don't really know if this is a good hire or not. His OC will be the most important hire he makes to work with Cam Ward. And that feels like that will make or break whether or not he's successful in Tennessee.
You know, Jeff, any of these hires, and I've always said, you don't know who's going to be good and who's not going to be good. What you can judge is the process. And what I like about what the Titans did is they gave it to Mike Borgonzi. This wasn't a long, drawn-out thing, and it doesn't sound like they had 5, 10 people in the room. It feels like it was Borgonzi's decision. Robert Saleh is an incredible football coach. What he did with the 49ers is almost impressive, what Kyle Shanahan did. He gets a pass with his first head coaching spot at the Jets, but at least he's been in the seat, and he knows what to expect. I like this hire. I think the key to the whole hire is going to be who's the offensive coordinator to bring along Cam Ward. I would not be surprised if it was Matt Nagy, who is out of contract in Borgonzi with in Seattle. But that's the key hire here. Saleh's going to be fine. They have to hire an offensive coordinator that can develop Cam Ward. Again, the problem with that is if he's really good, he's gone in a couple of years. But that's their most important hire right now.
I agree with you on the offense coordinator side. It does feel like maybe Matt Nagy will be the OC there. We'll find out as we go. And the reason why Matt Nagy is available is because the Chiefs went and hired Eric Bieniemy as their offense coordinator. Matt Nagy's contract was up, so that made it easy to do that. And so I found this really fascinating, Marty. So first off, look, the play call in Kansas City is Andy Reid, okay? There was this myth that when Eric Bieniemy was there previously, he was calling plays. No. Andy Reid calls the plays. Eric Bieniemy radios the plays to the quarterback. 2 different things. Now, Andy Reid's always been collaborative, right? So he's not the only guy, the only voice, but he's in the end of his offense. And what's interesting about this pairing back together is that the best offenses Andy Reid had in Kansas City were with Eric Bieniemy on the staff, and then, of course, as offensive coordinator. They split apart. EB was not a good OC elsewhere. He was in Washington. Was he with you? No, not with you in Washington, right?
I was with Eric when he was the OC, yes.
He was there in Washington. He went to UCLA. It just did not work out. And it did not work out for Andy Reid as well without him in the building. So it feels like they both come back and they both get the most out of each other, right? Eric Bieniemy is the guy who is going to keep the players in control. He has a level of leadership and command that they need and a little bit of accountability. He's a rough on the edges, which is fine. I'm not saying you can't have that in a coach. Reid's not. That's not. Now, Reid can get after you. I've been yelled at by Coach Reid. He can get after you. That's not really his MO. And it does feel like this pairing is perfect to bring the offense maybe more back to Andy Reid, and Eric Bieniemy can bring what he learned from Ben Johnson last season into this offense. I like this pairing, Marty.
I do too. And we talk about fit with players all the time. You know, it's just not about talent and skill set. It's how a player fits in a certain system. Well, Eric Bieniemy and Andy Reid are the perfect fit. And just for a lot of the reasons you said, listen, Eric is a very, he's a hard-driven coach. Yes. He is a disciplinarian. He has high expectations. And if you don't meet him, he's not afraid to tell you you're not meeting him. And I think that is a perfect kind of fit for Andy Reid. Andy Reid doesn't have to do that stuff when he's got Eric Bieniemy there. Look what the Bears running backs did this year. I mean, Eric Bieniemy is a good football coach, and I think the perfect role with him is the one he is going back to with Andy Reid, because he knows what Andy wants. He can communicate it to the players, and he can push the players to be the best that they can be.
And Eric and Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes have vouched for him as well. Like, I think that if Kelce was going to retire, this might be a reason why he comes back for one more year. Like, I truly do believe like that type of impact Eric Bieniemy can have. Another coordinator hire, I think it's official, but it's at least close to being official. The Chargers hired Mike McDaniel as their OC. And buddy, this one is fascinating because Jim Harbaugh and Mike McDaniel do not feel like guys that would grab a beer together or smoke a doobie or just hang out with each other. But this is an interesting pairing because you have the physicality of the Harbaugh run scheme, right? It's a lot of gap scheme, power, counter, a lot of big personnel people. And you have Mike McDaniel, who is a great OC, just he got a bad quarterback, right? It's just like there wasn't, and his more of exotic run scheme, right? The outside zones, some of the funky formations. The pairing of this is very fascinating because it's two different ways to run the football. Of course, passing the football will be important for them as well, but just personality-wise, this one's very curious, Marty. I like it. I like the hire, but wow, could they be two different people?
I might not have any hair left on the top of my head because I've been scratching it ever since I saw this announcement. Jeff, this is the odd couple. It is the most unique pairing in the National Football League. You know what it says to me? I even have more respect, and I had a ton of respect, but I even have more respect for Jim Harbaugh, bringing in somebody that is totally different. New ideas, right? New ideas, and we'll work it out. It does not seem like a great marriage, those two, but I'm willing to bet they work it out. And I give Jim Harbaugh so much credit for this because he's bringing in different ideas, a different mindset. He's going to have the final say on what they do, but he wants creativity and he wants diversity, he wants different ideas. I think that is a sign of a special head coach.
I agree with you. I do think the pairing is quite fascinating. All right. Last coaching topic before we get into the games here, Marty. Any predictions for any of these other jobs? 6 open, I think, still, which is wild. I mean, the names keep coming around. It seems like Mike McCarthy is a favorite for Pittsburgh, it feels like. It feels like Brian Flores will get a job somewhere. Matt Nagy might get a job. They're interviewing the young OCs for Jacksonville and the Rams that feel too early to be head coaches. You know, like McVay was a head coach at 30, but he also was a play caller, right? Like these guys they're interviewing have not called plays. So like they're brand new to being in front of a room if they could be a head coach. Just sort of general thoughts on where these other jobs might end up.
Where's Clint Kubiak going to end up?
I thought Atlanta, but clearly not. I think the coaches have to decide, Marty, do I want to coach the Cleveland Browns or be an offensive coordinator for one more season? You know, like that's a decision that people have to make.
Yeah, and that's the thing with top head coach, like Sean McDermott. If I'm Sean McDermott, I'm looking at the openings. Why not wait till next year, right? You can get pretty much the pick of your jobs. I would think he'd be sought after pretty highly.
Read your Ravens.
He could. I just it's so hard to figure out who these teams are gonna hire, and I think it really does come down. You know, you talk about the Ravens. Don't you want an offensive head coach that's going to be there and develop?
I think you have to. Yes.
I think you have to. So some of these openings, it really comes down to, do you want offense? Do you want defense? I would always interview both, but I would always lean toward defensive coaches because I thought they had a better feel of personnel and of how to really help build a formula for how to win. My only problem with it is defensive head coaches normally don't call the plays. They say, John Fox always said, oh, you're a counterpuncher, so it takes longer. Offensive head coaches call the plays. So I think if you're a team with a quarterback like Lamar Jackson, you're sort of leaning toward an offensive head coach. Now, if somebody comes in on the defensive side and blows your doors off, that makes it different.
Yeah. All right, time to get to the games because obviously this is what consumed us this weekend. The Patriots at the Broncos. Broncos are getting 4.5, total 42.5 here. The Broncos obviously without Jarrett Stidham. I think the Broncos win the game. Excuse me, without Bo Nix. I'm sorry. They have Jarrett Stidham. I think the Broncos win, Marty. I think they do. I got them at +6 on Sunday. I'll tell you why I think they win. Back against the wall mentality is a really important thing in this game, right? Where Denver has a really good team outside the quarterback. It's not just Bo Nix. And often it hasn't been Bo Nix, right? It's been someone else on the team or the defense or the run game or the wide receivers that have made the plays. And Bo Nix has done a good job of being around them, but they've won games many different ways, right? With, not having to have Bo Nix be the guy. It's Drake May's first time on the road in the postseason, Marty. It's a big spot for them. Don't love New England's offensive line. Who's catching the football for New England if Patrick Surtain says one side of the field is off limits for you guys now? Marty, I like Denver in this game. I do. I know Bo Nix is not playing. I get it. I like their defense. I like the matchup against the Patriots offensive line. I like the matchup against the Patriots wide receivers. I like the matchup against Drake May. On the other side, if Dobbins comes back, this is a huge plus for Denver. Their one missing piece is the running back. The offensive line's really good. Tight end's good enough. Wide receivers are good. The backs just aren't great. So that's my general thought on this game. I would not be surprised if Denver won this game without Bo Nix.
My one concern, my biggest concern, and I want to see how you react to this, and I think it's right, is since 1958, quarterbacks haven't started in the regular season and have started a playoff game. Only one of them has won. 1 out of 8. Frank Reich, 1992, with that amazing comeback against Houston.
Yeah, because Nick Foles started week 17 in that Super Bowl year, right? So he got one. Right. He got one start.
Not playing in the regular season at all. Not starting in the regular season.
I know it is my concern. We're gonna get to best bets, but I have a theory on how this game might start, which will impress me. But look, Sean Payton has had success with backup quarterbacks. Now, that backup quarterback was Teddy Bridgewater, right? Not Jarrett Stidham. So there is concern just the rawness of him. And I do think like this is another reason to play backups every now and then. The NFL is very anti-playing backups, like it just is. But there were games this year Denver could have got him in probably and played him a drive or two just to sort of get him some reps, but it just didn't happen that way. But I trust Sean Payton. Like this is an opportunity for him as a coach to show that he is in the group we talk about as the best ever. I don't know if we talk about Sean Payton quite like that. You win this game, Marty, like that, with Jarrett Stidham, that puts you in a level that I don't think, I know you like Sean Payton, I like Sean Payton, but how about just where he's at paying the coaches. So let's continue to talk about this game. We'll finish with the NFC game. We'll do it next. Give a shout. We're talking about DraftKings Network.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
We're back on the GM Shuffle here to preview the 2 games this weekend, best bets, and a reminder, next week, even though there's no football coming up, we're going to talk about the Super Bowl. It's going to happen. We'll give you a preview of the matchup. We'll talk about all the business in the NFL. This is Marty's time to shine, guys. This is Marty's time of the year. We have an East-West Shrine game next week. The Senior Bowl coming up. This is Marty's grind out the player personnel evaluations. I like Jarrett Stidham over 39.5 first quarter yards, Marty. Finish up on the Sean Payton idea. In a game like this, it's natural to feel like Denver's going to run the football early in the game, right? I think the opposite is true, where they try to establish Jarrett Stidham in a rhythm early in the game, and you're going to get like the 7 best passing plays Sean Payton has in the playbook in this game early on. They're going to move the pocket. They're going to boot. They're going to play action pass. They're going to screen. Like this is, to me, is an opportunity to start Jarrett Stidham off fast. I like him to start, but I don't know if he's going to finish fast, Marty. I think Sean Payton is the opposite of what we think and ends up actually showing more Jarrett Stidham early in this game. Do you agree or disagree?
I agree. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out, and I've always battled this. What effect does, so Josh McDaniels was with Jarrett Stidham 2 years at the Patriots. He knows him pretty well. What can he tell Mike Vrabel and the Patriots defense about Jarrett Stidham that would give them an advantage?
Maybe if he favored a side of the field, right? Like he throws better to the right side than left side of the field. Arm strength, right? Like he's better at this type of throw than that type of throw. But schematically, I mean that's nothing. But just like the idea of he throws 20-yard outs better to the right than the left. I mean things like that. I would imagine he could share.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I think he comes out in the scripted portion of the game early and does well, but I think the Rams start making that they start making adjustments, the Patriots, and he just gets confused at times because you have to be able to play, a lot of games with reps to be able to get used to that. So I think that's going to be the biggest thing. I agree with you. As the game goes on, I think that the Patriots will change things up and try to confuse him and obviously try to create turnovers, which Denver cannot do.
Final thoughts on this game, Marty? What do you like?
I like the Patriots, Jeff. I really do. I think that they're hot right now. It really breaks my heart that Bo Nix is hurt because I was really looking forward to seeing these two quarterbacks face each other. Would not shock me if Sean Payton found a way to win this game, but I just think that the Patriots are playing too well. They're too healthy. I like them. I don't like them giving 4.5, but I like them to win the game.
Yeah, the Broncos might end up being one of my best bets. Obviously, 4.5 is what it is. You might get a 5 or 5.5 on game days. I think people come in on New England just to see that number. It is what it is. All right, let's get to the NFC Championship game. Third game between the Rams and Seahawks here. The number is Seattle favored by 2.5 total, 46.5 right now on DraftKings. Marty, I ask you the question very simply. Do we get 60 minutes of the Rams' best football, or do we get between 45 and 48 minutes of the best Rams football? Because that will determine who wins this game, in my opinion. If the Rams play their capability, they might win going away. If they don't, which they haven't done for a while now, they will lose this game. That's sort of my feel on this game. But I don't know. After what we saw last week with the Rams, they got to play better this week or they won't even stand a chance.
Yeah, I mean, I think 45 to 48 is a little generous on your part. I mean, if you go back in the past, maybe 35 to 40. Listen, I'm breaking all of my rules here, okay? I always said, the best coach, the better coach, and you have to give to McVay. The best quarterback, you have to give it to Stafford. But I think the best team is the Seattle Seahawks. I think that between special teams, defense, Sam Darnold knows he's got to hold on to the ball. Clint Kubiak knows that. They're going to come out. I think that's the team that comes out and runs the ball early and tries to establish the tempo and possession. But, we'll talk about our best bets. But I like the Seahawks to win this game.
So do you like any, the Rams, they're not running the ball enough last week. I don't know if on Seattle's a good opportunity, but it does feel like the Rams have to get Davante Adams more involved. They target him a lot in the first two playoff games. He had, I think, 5 catches game 1, 2 last week, but I think he's got like 13 targets, 14 targets. It does feel like in this game, because Puka Nacua played so well a month ago when they played. Remember, the Rams were up 30-14 and blew that game on a weird 2-point conversion, just some bad play down the stretch there. I feel like Davante Adams has to be a guy in this game who plays well for the Rams to win. Right now, you can get his receiving yards at 47.5. His receptions right now are set at over 4.5. I actually like both those overs. I think Adams just has to be part of this game plan. Seattle's going to put their attention to Puka Nacua, and Adams is Stafford's other guy. It's hard to bet on other Rams players because, like what tight end they're going to target. I don't know. If I knew that, I'd make a lot of money. So it does feel like Davante Adams is going to be the guy, though, that has to be a big part of this game plan.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the Rams are going to come out and they have to establish the run, Jeff. But what they're going to do passing wise is, okay, Seattle switches it up between man, they'll go zone. When they go man in the early games, basically Stafford throws back shoulders, and so they move to a zone coverage, and he'll throw it over the linebacker and complete a pass on the sidelines. So this is all. I don't think there's anything the Seahawks are going to show Matt Stafford that he hasn't seen before. If the Rams can come out and run the ball early, I do think that they will win the game and control the tempo. But the Seahawks are very talented on the back end, and if they can play man coverage for a lot of the game and shut them down, I think that's going to be the key.
So Zach Charbonnet was announced out for the season right after we recorded on Monday, Seattle's running back. Kenneth Walker is not a high attempt running back, right? He just, no. I think last week he had 19. Before that, his other high of the year was 19, but it's a lot in the 10 and 12 and 13 and 15. Their run game has gone a lot better, which is important to note here. Any concern with Seattle's run game?
Though. They're going to miss Charbonnet, Jeff.
So how does that affect the run game?
I think it affects it a lot, and I think maybe you see more outlets, and that's where Kenneth Walker's so dangerous because he's so explosive. You get the ball out to him in the flat real quick. I think he can make big plays. That's what he is. He's a chunk play guy, as you said. He's not a big carry guy, but he's a guy who can make explosive plays and get plays in chunks. And I think what we've seen in the playoffs right now is that's how you win the game, right? I mean, I think I sound like Troy Aikman, but you have to get chunk plays to win in the playoffs.
I think if you get chunk plays all the time to win, Marty. I am huge on explosive play rate.
Right.
Now, this is more of a college thing than an NFL thing. In college, you just can't go 10 or 12 plays multiple times a game. You're going to have a penalty, a dumb play, a turnover, something. You're college kids. The NFL, it's a little bit easier, but then your margin of error is you got to convert 3 third downs. It's easier to score quickly. So, if Kenneth Walker, without Charbonnet there, do you think Shaheed gets sort of those quote unquote run plays like the quick screens, the wide receiver, do you think he becomes part of the run game for the Seahawks?
I think a little bit, but not a lot. Maybe twice. Twice. I don't think he's going to be the staple there. I think that you're going to go a lot with Kenneth Walker.
Any concern about Sam Darnold's oblique strain?
Always. Those are really difficult injuries, especially for a quarterback to throw. But I think he'll probably feel fine at game time. And the adrenaline, Jeff, you know what that does. The adrenaline's going to be so high that I think he'll be able to play through it. But I think it's crazy to say it won't affect him.
And the Toradol helps. I love when people talk about
feeling fine.
Yeah. Until it wears off, and then you're like, oh boy, I need another one. It's so funny that people talk about like Toradol and like they'll just shoot his oblique up. No, they don't. So it's just don't put like
you can't do that.
It's not what you do. It's just like it's funny that people talk about it like, oh, just shoot him. No. It's a general, anti-inflammatory that you get, and he's probably and now will they give him painkillers all week potentially? Will they give him some? But like they don't just like jab a needle into his oblique and shoot him up with something and say go out there and play football. It's just funny how like that is perpetuated in the media. All right, Marty, time for our best bets here. What do you got?
Well, I've said I got Seattle. It's gone down to 2.5. I love them. I'm going to make. I've made a play at 3. I'm going more at 2.5. I think the home field's extremely important here, especially in Seattle, and I think that they are just playing the best football right now. There's something about the Rams, Jeff, and I can't give you any analytic, any metrics.
Oh, they're not playing their
Rams.
They're not playing their best, Marty. I get it. Yeah,
they are not, and you just flip the switch against one of the best defenses in the league. I mean, in the defense, I just are they going to be able to get enough pressure on Sam Darnold to force him into those bad decisions that he'll make now and then? I just think that the Seahawks are just a well-balanced team, all 3 units. And again, I mentioned the Rams special teams. I mean, they haven't been played well. So
no,
I just think that all signs point to the Seahawks at home in this game.
Maybe a couple quick amount. I mentioned Jarrett Stidham over 39.5 passing yards in the first quarter. It appears that Dobbins will play this weekend. So will Wattenberg. Their center will come back. I would look to pop a rushing prop over for Dobbins when you get an opportunity for that. Not up now. but it will get up at some point this weekend if he does play. Again, I mentioned I like Davante Adams over 4.5 receptions and also receiving yards, over 47.5 here. I lean the Rams, but I'd rather get a 3 than a 2.5. As I mentioned, I have the plus 5.5 and a plus 6 on Denver, so those are not available, but maybe they'll pop back up again. All right, guys. Next week, we're going to do our Monday recap. Hopefully, have some more coaches hired, and we're going to start talking about next year potentially, coaching hires, things like that, and we'll kind of get into a little bit of the offseason. Look, again, it's Marty's time to shine, man. He's grinding that East-West Shrine Game practice tape. I get it too, Marty. I get it too. I can grind it. We can grind together on the film if you would like. Please rate, review, subscribe. It really helps out our podcast. We really appreciate the feedback as well. Have a great weekend of watching football. Stay safe out there. Some weather could be a concern around the country. We'll talk to you guys on Monday. Take care, everybody.